Okay, it is my 46th birthday, and for my birthday gift, I wanted my parents to share their brief testimony because they just shared it at a Bible study and people were blessed by it. So I wanted my kids to hear and be blessed by it, and then I also wanted others in the church family to be blessed by it, and maybe even our extended family. We have a Tibayan
Mm-hmm.
clan text thread. So, Mom, Dad, thanks for being here. Um, Here we have Reed in the room, and Francis is here, and Key and Story, and City's not here, and maybe Lige will join us in a little bit. Okay, so Mom, let's talk about your life before Christ. Just in a minute or two, what was your life like before you met Jesus?
Well, born and raised in the Philippines, grew up with my family that believe in Catholicism. We're really Catholics before in the Philippines. And then what we believe is, the tradition that's handed down to us. Uh, we go to church, we recite uh, prayers, and we pray the rosary. We do like processions, like they bring up the idols, and then we light up candles and follow like lines of people to go around. So a lot of traditions that I grew up in
Did
the Catholic Church. We
did you think you were going to heaven when you died?
uh Yes,
You did,
because
okay.
being a Catholic, if you're a Catholic, you're for sure going to heaven.
Okay. So now I know you're a Catholic and a real one, but were you living for Catholicism? Were you living for God, or what were you living for before you became a Christian? Right before you became a Christian. So you're already a mom, you have your kids. What were you living for in 1987, 1988?
Oh, we're living for like American dreams. We wanted uh, to be able to have a family that can afford to send the children to school, to have like a house, to live comfortably, pretty much, for the propagation of our family. To
Okay.
Yeah,
And then how did God save you? What was
God.
the year? Where were you? What was the year, and how did God do it?
Well, looking back, it is not like a one-time deal. It is a process. Thinking back, God's hands was on me even from the Philippines, bringing me to America, because the
Right.
first job that I have here is through Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International. A lot of like people are sending letters, and I got a temporary work in there to be able uh, to put in the computer, those letters, coding it and putting it in the computer. And then every Wednesday they have a chapel hour. I attend their chapel hour. They give me a New Testament Bible. I just listen to it. It doesn't hit me with their testimony, crying and everything.
But it
And
was the
then
Bible and it was the gospel.
the Bible was given to me. I read it as a book. It is a good read in every part of it that I read, but it
Right.
doesn't really hit me like to affect me.
And were you this is in America
This
already?
is in America.
Where were you
This is
working? What
1976.
76? Where were you working?
Uh, Full Gospel Businessmen's International. That is by Dimas Shakarian. As a matter of fact, Dimas Shakarian is the grandfather of the Kardashians.
Oh. And he was there?
The Dimas Shakarian is the CEO, but I never get to meet him. But that
He
is
was
the name that the CEO is in that
and
company that I was.
he was Christian?
They claim to be Christian. They are uh yeah, they're charismatic Christians. They
Okay.
speak in tongues and all that.
So then okay, so you're here in 1976, but you're not a Christian yet. What happened how'd you become a Christian? How did you
Fast
convert to
forward,
Jesus?
fast forward 1988.
Yeah.
Even before that, 2 years before 1988, so 1986, I met Lilia Soledad. Okay,
Okay.
and Lilia is the one that keep inviting me to go to church, to Bible study, to prayer meeting, to Christian Fellowship Bible Church, and I have all the reasons for 2 years to say no, and I went on with my life until the time that I was diagnosed with cancer.
Okay, before that, where did you meet her?
At her jewelry store in Amar in Azusa.
Off of Amar. Okay, so you met her there in
Because Ray is
1986.
always going in there to buy me little things like a little necklace or ring or whatever for birthday or whatever occasions that we have.
Okay, so Dad, how did you find the jewelry store?
Dad,
This
how
is
did you
okay.
find the jewelry store?
I always hang around that area. There is
And
a
what?
beer place.
There's
Beer
a,
garden.
there's a Filipino place. There's a Filipino, what do you
Plaza.
call this? Yeah, street
Beer.
mall, kind of like Filipino restaurants,
Yeah.
Filipino stores, and all of that. So a lot of Filipinos go in there.
There's Goldilocks, Pangasa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Goldilocks Pag-asa.
And they have a beer garden.
A beer garden?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was
So
there
Dad,
is? I don't
so Dad's
even
going there. Dad's going there to drink beer, and then he buys you jewelry. So that's how you found the store. Okay, so
maybe,
19.
but uh-huh.
So fast forward to 1988. You already know Tita Lilia for 2 years. What happens in 1988? You said you got
1988,
cancer.
I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, and then I got to be hospitalized and have a surgery. And Lilia was there to really extend her loving kindness, kind of giving me Bible, flowers, praying with me, visiting me,
Yeah.
and telling me that the whole church is praying for my healing and salvation. Yes.
Okay, and so because of that, then what happened next?
Then what happened next is after the surgery, and I have to go back to work after 2 months. I realized like I have to go back and thank Lilia and the church for praying for me because it was a successful surgery. And then I went in there, but it didn't hit me or anything. I kind of like sit down there and listen. So when I went back to work again, I met Beth.
Mm-hmm.
Beth, who just came back from ear surgery. I don't know what came about to me. I overheard her. She's attending a church somewhere, a Catholic church that's speaking in tongues. It's just like, oh, that is the language of heaven, the angels and all that. So I went to her and says like, do you want to attend Bible study with me? Because there's a Bible a church in Amar in Azusa has been like inviting me. Would you like to come? And then we went. And then later on, Jojo joined us. So at first it didn't really hit us. It was like, let's try it again. So we did again.
Yeah.
And then until they said like, that kind of like makes sense and kind of interests us. So we started going to the Bible study and to the Sunday gathering.
Okay. And so wait, so that Bible study was where and when?
That is in Amar in Azusa. That is the CFBC church now.
Okay.
That is in the I don't know what it is next to Pag-asa and Goldilocks in their church over there.
So it was still in the storefront, the Bible study.
Yes, yeah. In that
Okay.
not in the store, but next to 3 stalls down is the church. 3 stalls down is the jewelry store.
Okay, so it's not even at the corner yet of the storefronts.
We're the corner already.
So the jewelry store moved, or the
No. The jewelry store is never been a church. The jewelry store is separated from the church ever since.
Yeah, that's not 3 stalls though. That's probably like 15 or 20 stalls.
I don't know.
Right?
For me,
Okay.
it's
No.
I thought you were talking about something else because Pangasa was 3 stalls from the church. Okay, I thought it was. I'm just trying to get the history. Okay, so you're meeting in the building, but you're not a Christian yet through Bible studies. You're not converted yet through Sunday gathering.
No.
Okay, so what happened? When did you
So
become Christian?
one Sunday, that was August 6th. I remember it. August 6th, 1988.
Okay.
Okay. That was August 6th, 19. They have a visiting pastor, Pastor Melicor.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alan Melko.
Alan Melicor. Yeah, he's a doctor. He's a surgeon from the Philippines, but studying to be a pastor in Pasadena. I forgot the Fuller Seminary.
Oh, he went to Fuller.
Yeah,
Wow,
so
I didn't know that's my story.
he sat down with me and explained to me the gospel. He went through the Roman roads. We read
Okay.
the verses and all. And then I told him that I really wanted to be a Christian, and I really want to receive the God's gift of salvation. And he led me to a prayer. And yeah, and I was so excited that thinking that I became a Christian. And true enough, that is the start of a life change in me. Yeah, at first we were attending a Sunday gathering in CFBC, and in
Yeah.
the evening or in the afternoon we still go to a Catholic church.
Catholic Church. That's right. Okay. So you became a Christian there, and where was that? Where was this conversation with Alan?
It is at the CFBC on a Sunday
Okay, on a Sunday after the gathering.
after the gathering.
Okay. And then how did your life change since then? What was life like? What's like, give me one or two major ways your life changed after in the immediate aftermath.
I kind of like noticed that I am not by myself or looking at myself at the time, but kind of like looking outward, like, oh, I have neighbors, I have friends. So, the focus on myself and my family kind of like became wider. So they needed like a Sunday school teacher, they needed a choir member, potluck ministry. I kind of like join in all those ministries that they
Yeah.
have a need
Okay.
of.
How did your sense of your relationship with God change? Because you were Catholic, you're praying all the time before. Was there any
Yeah.
change in terms of the way it felt your relationship with God? Did you feel any difference or sense any difference?
Oh, yes. I started to be excited reading the Bible. As a matter of fact, I started probably buying, different verses, different Bible versions. At the time, there's an NIV because they use the King James version. There's a New King James version. Especially, when I started volunteering to be Sunday school teacher, I have to really study, and the more I study, the more I get hungry for more reading.
Yeah.
I remember I even like holding, like, there is like an NIV that kind of looks like a pocketbook. I will bring it to work, and I
Yeah.
can stop reading. I think I started on the book of Acts, and it became like it's coming up like this is like a real story, as if like I'm reading a movie story or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
That's good.
it's making sense, and things like that.
Wow. Okay, Mom, last question is what's the biggest I guess what's the biggest way you want to talk or biggest way? What is the what is it like in one way? How would you categorize what it's like to live and walk with Jesus today and your relationship with God today and his goodness in your life today in this age and season of your life?
Well, today in the season of my life, it is really your life is meaningless without Jesus. It's like everything that you do that is not making sense without Jesus. He's just the center. It's all about Jesus now. It's not about me, you know, having money or whatever that I can do travel and everything. But apart away from Jesus, that's all meaningless and doesn't mean anything. So it's
Mm,
almost like zero, zero, zeros. Not unless there's one in front of it, it's all zeros.
it's all zeros. Ooh, that's a sermon illustration.
Yeah, I kind of like heard that in one of the, because I also love always hearing different kind of preaching. I always want to hear preaching because
Yeah.
it's hard for me to understand verses. So sometimes I always look for, like, what does John Piper have to say this, what does John MacArthur say about this. So I kind of like listen. So sometimes what I hear, it kind of stuck in my mind and it just comes out. I don't know who it came from.
Yeah. I know that's like okay, that was sorry, that was not my last question. My last question is Your granddaughters are right here, and they're listening to your story. And Lige is online. I think Leah's already on this call. And I might show this to our other family, other Tibayan family and extended family or even church family. What's one thing you want to say to the future generations of our family and friends about following Jesus? What should they know about following Jesus?
About following Jesus is continue to understand what the gospel is. As a matter of fact, you have to really rehearse it to yourself that Jesus died for your sin and you are under God's wrath. Apart from knowing that Jesus Christ died, has given his life and resurrected, for the forgiveness of your sin, that you may have a place in heaven.
Yeah.
And that is very important to understand that before anything else. Because apart from Jesus, apart from the gospel, your life is like meaningless. It's just gonna go forgotten. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Mom. I'm glad you shared the story. I'm glad that we're able to hear it and record it because just we could watch it again. The kids can watch it. They can show their kids and grandkids, if God wills, or even extended family and church family. We also want the church to know your story. So thank you for sharing about how God has been good in your life.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm going to stop it here. Okay, stop recording.